that's now resorting to marketing, right? When they said they were going to never market, it's an auto company. And auto companies trade at 6 times earnings. And like you said last time we spoke, Brian, Warren Buffett said it. In 1905, 2,000 auto companies, nearly all of them went bankrupt. It's a tough business.
In today's video, it's episode number 420 of The Competition is Coming, and Tesla is just a car company. And a quick reminder, posted a couple of exclusive videos overnight, one to my Twitter subscribers, one over on Patreon. Check them out with the links in the pinned comment.
There you go. And if you haven't been paying attention, Tesla and Musk, they've cut prices a number of times over just the last couple of months. Let's talk more now about this. Get to our panel tonight. That is former Ford Motor President and CEO and CBC contributor Mark Fields and GLJ Research CEO and founder Gordon Johnson. Mark, pardon me for being cynical, but Musk is obviously not a dumb guy. And later in the interview, he sort of intimated that the Fed and the economy, who's worried about it, is he cutting prices in your mind because he's worried about the consumer? Or is it more likely that he's trying to basically destroy every other nation's EV business?
Or is it because they told us that's what they were going to do in their 2006 secret master plan? In short, make low volume, expensive vehicles, use the money from those to make higher volume, less expensive vehicles, rinse, recycle, repeat, until practically every human on Earth can afford an electric vehicle. Just asking the question. Now, I don't want to ruin the movie for everyone, so if you don't want it to be spoiled, best to tune out for the next 30 seconds. But if you're wondering how this ends, Tesla will continue to reduce the prices on their vehicles as they drive their costs down. In addition, they will continue to release new vehicle products throughout the rest of this decade and beyond that are even more affordable and extremely compelling. If you're a little bit unsure as to why Tesla would do this, refer to their mission statement of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Tesla has told us publicly they're aiming to produce 20 million electric vehicles per year at the end of this decade. They won't be selling them for today's prices. This should go without saying, but apparently not, because literally every single time Tesla reduces prices on any vehicles, the only possible explanation is that there's no demand, not that Tesla's executing on their publicly stated mission. As for the point that is Tesla doing this just to kill every other automotive company, in essence, this is not their intention, but it will be a consequence. Tesla has price leadership. They have compelling products that they can produce for a fraction the cost of anyone else on Earth, meaning they can sell them for a fraction of the cost and still make more money than anyone else. Although in fairness, outside of China, there aren't any companies besides Tesla making any money selling electric vehicles at any price point. But this is an important distinction. Tesla isn't trying to destroy automotive companies, but there's going to be a lot of bankruptcies in the automotive industry throughout this decade. By the way, I thought this was worth sharing. XPeng, a Chinese automotive manufacturer producing electric vehicles who previously may or may not have stolen some source code from Tesla, are currently looking at their quarterly gross margins. You know, the ones that investors are freaking out because Tesla's now just under 20%. Anyone notice a little bit of a trend here? As of Q1 2023, gross margin 1.7%. Tesla more than 10 times the margin. Notice, Tesla's margins followed a similar trend. They grew quite strongly throughout 2021, 2022. Elon Musk literally describes Tesla's pricing during that period as embarrassing, way too high. And then things start to come back to reality. Now, for those who don't know, the Chinese automotive market is extremely competitive, cutthroat. Companies like XPeng can't afford to reduce prices on their vehicles further unless they're willing to lose insane amounts of money on every vehicle sold. So what happens when a company like Tesla is making 20, 25, 30+% margins in China on their China-produced electric vehicles and selling some of those vehicles into the Chinese market? Companies like XPeng have to make the choice. Do we try to compete on price and lose insane amounts of money and probably go bankrupt? Or do we not try to compete on price and not sell any vehicles and then probably go bankrupt anyway? Something to ponder.
Well, I actually think, Brian, it's a combination of both. I mean, listen, the bottom line with high interest rates, it's tougher for consumers to afford vehicles. And listen, as he tries to go for, the Model Y and the Model 3 and get kind of mass adoption, or, the everyday person buying EVs, they got to be less expensive in this kind of current economic environment.
Not just in this economic environment, although I understand Mark's point. Recession fears, people can't pay their mortgage, lots of automotive sales being delayed into the future. People don't want to spend money on big ticket items when there's a lot of financial uncertainty. But in order for Tesla to get to the real mass market and be selling tens of millions of vehicles per year, obviously the prices of those vehicles will need to be significantly lower than they are today. If only Tesla would have developed a new manufacturing system and a bunch of innovations to literally halve the cost to produce a compelling electric vehicle. Wait, hang on a minute. I'm high. I forgot. They did do that, didn't they, at Investor Day earlier this year?
At the same token, he sees there's a lot of competition already coming in the marketplace, and it's a bit of a land grab. He said very clearly on the earnings call, they're going for volume over profitability.
Yeah, and Gordon, obviously you're a well-known Tesla critic, but this move, at least from where I'm sitting, appears to be working in terms of market share. Not margin, but market share.
Right. Hey, thanks for having me, Brian. So with respect to market share, they're still ceding market share. They've gotten some gains recently, but let me give you some numbers. Let's look at the facts, right? So their backlog has fell from 480,000 cars a year ago to 83,000 cars right now. That's less than 2 weeks of deliveries. Their inventories in the US and Europe right now are setting at just below record levels.
How unlike Gordon to pick cherries. Here's a question. It's worth pondering. If Tesla continues to increase their production, in fact, they continue to produce record numbers of vehicles quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter, if their inventory levels remained exactly the same in percentage terms, but on a higher base of production, would it then not follow logically that quarter after quarter with record production would come record inventory levels? Oh, yes, it would. That would be the logical conclusion. So it sounds like Gordon is making a very bearish point here, but just pointing out the obvious logical conclusion of Tesla continuing to scale up their production. And we also know that Tesla themselves have explained to investors who actually pay attention a few quarters ago, they intend on unwinding their end-of-quarter delivery wave. They're no longer playing that dumb game of rushing, paying expedited shipping fees to get vehicles to customers at the end of the quarter, no matter the cost. Instead, those vehicles can remain in transit with standard freight and end up in customers' driveways early into the next quarter, which is exactly what's happening. Being honest about this and reasonable wouldn't paint the bearish narrative. So it's a great way to just pluck a cherry out and say, yeah, record levels of inventory in Europe and the United States, or near record. It's pretty likely that Gordon's going to be able to make this exact same claim, and it will be accurate every single quarter of the decade. The distinction is it's not bad news. It's not bearish. It's a logical outcome of Tesla scaling production.
And he said last night that the reason he's cutting prices is because of demand, right? Everybody was saying he's trying to transition everyone to EVs. He said last night it's because of demand. And in fact, he said last night, they're seeing economic headwinds over the next 12 months. We think that's a de facto revision lower in guidance. This is a company that's seeing earnings fall, that's trading at 60 times earnings in an industry that trades at 7 times earnings, that's now resorting to marketing, right? When they said they were going to never market, it's an auto company. And auto companies trade at 6 times earnings. And like you said last time we spoke, Brian, Warren Buffett said it. In 1905, 2,000 auto companies, nearly all of them went bankrupt. It's a tough business.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Tesla is just a car company, and thus they should be valued like one. Not like the internal combustion engine industry is going away. Nor is it like Tesla is a software company, nor do they have any capabilities in AI. Those FSD beta vehicles, the hundreds of thousands of those vehicles driving around on roads with supervision, that's just a party trick. It's an illusion. It's a fraud because they're just a car company. And when you hear actual car companies explaining that Tesla has a huge advantage in software and technology and cost, they're copying some of their manufacturing techniques, etc., they're obviously just paid shills. They're obviously just on Tesla's payroll to make Tesla look good, to give the appearance of being a little bit more than just a car company. If you disagree with me, you're just an Elon D rider.
And I think Mark can speak to that.
But Mark, I feel like when we look at the auto industry, it's like almost like an iCloud Android type thing, and Tesla is the iCloud. I know there's the adapter now, and you can, but it used to be Tesla was its own thing. In many ways, it still kind of is. It's like the razor blade model as well. And I feel like right now, Musk and Tesla are the iCloud, and everybody else, I'm not saying they're BlackBerry or Research in Motion or whatever, but they're struggling to catch up.
Well, they're coming from behind.
Must not make joke about coming from behind. Oh, wait, is that recording?
I mean, you got to give Musk credit, right? He kind of put the EV market on the map and got the whole industry moving towards electric vehicles. So he's got the first mover advantage. But as Gordon said, listen, there's a lot of competition that's coming.
Oh, yes, I forgot. The competition is coming, which they've been doing for the last 15 years, which I think that technically makes Tesla's competition the world record holder for the longest orgasm. They've clearly dethroned the pigs with about a 30 to 90 minute, I can't remember, something like that. So eventually, the competition may in fact come for Tesla rather than all over itself. But at this point in time, just because you say the competition is coming, and you've been saying that for like the last 15 years, does not actually make it true. Where's the competition that's coming? You can point to the GM Hummer EV that, they sold 3 units last quarter. The engineering's a joke, they can't make money on that. Maybe the GM Bolt, in terms of numbers of electric vehicles sold from a US automotive manufacturer. Number 2 behind Tesla, but we heard this year that GM's going to stop producing that vehicle at the end of this year, and they've also never made a cent of profit producing and selling those things. So I wouldn't consider that competition. Because if you discontinue a product and never made money on it in the first place, I wouldn't consider that competition. I'd consider that a fucking joke. We just saw Xpeng's gross automotive margins around 1.7%. Where's this so-called competition? Oh, that's right. It doesn't exist. Now, I know a lot of people watching this channel haven't been following the Tesla story for the last 15-ish years. In fact, very few. But this has literally been a recurring theme from day one. Since Tesla IPO'd in 2010, so-called experts, industry experts, constantly talking about Tesla. Oh yeah, well they started things, but now the competition's coming. Then they'll rattle off a bunch of hypothetical vehicles that were supposedly coming from some of Tesla's so-called competition. The Tesla killers that never materialized. Then the narrative slightly shifts from the so-called Tesla killers, which these companies realized, okay, it's not actually. They used to use the term Tesla killer, by the way. It's no longer Tesla killer. Now it's just the competition is coming. And what they'll do now is cite the supposed plans of some legacy automotive manufacturers who've told their dumbass investors that they plan on releasing 42 different models of electric vehicle by tomorrow. And maybe they might share one or two computer renderings to back that up. Or maybe you hear the competition is coming in forms of new EV startups, those all teetering on the verge of bankruptcy, struggling to produce vehicles at volume. It appears at this point Lucid can't even give away their vehicles. Rivian are doing okay, just okay, still losing catastrophic amounts of money, but they might survive. It is absurd in 2023 to still be saying the same thing that people were saying almost 15 years ago. The competition is coming. They're finally coming. Now the competition, trust me, this time it's actually true. The competition is coming. Somebody let me know when the competition actually does come. In unrelated matters, did you know the competition is coming for Apple's iPhone? Just trust me, the competition is coming. iPhone launched, 2008, 2009, about the same time Tesla IPO'd. This is the year that the Blackberries and the Nokias finally come for the iPhone. Because I told you, I said it must be true. The competition is coming after all.
His share is down, but you got to put it into perspective. Right? Their share last year was 72 or 75%. Now it's about 60. It's still a pretty big number.
That is the understatement of all understatements. I mean, he's right. But bro, what other product, what other company, what other brand captures that kind of market share anywhere? It's absurd. And obviously, the entire electric vehicle market is growing. The more companies that start producing electric vehicles, even if they're only selling a handful of them, will automatically take some share away from Tesla. There's a new slice of the pie. But the whole market is expanding, and this is the thing that's really important to understand. The key distinction: how many electric vehicles are being sold by each company on planet Earth? That's the only metric that matters as far as share of the market goes. Everything else is noise or intentional cherries picked to deceive people listening to supposedly intelligent arguments from supposed people who run a supposedly legitimate research firm publishing supposedly legitimate research to investors.
But the bottom line is that competition's coming. They are catching up. And, to Gordon's point, they've literally gone from being supply constrained to demand constrained. And that's why I think yesterday, I know he did it on the fly, but he talked about new products coming and he talked about doing advertising. So that's a very clear signal. They got to juice up some tools that they haven't used.
Logic doesn't check out there, Mark. Sorry. Let's think about this. Tesla's already told us in the past that they have new products coming. I mean, the whole Investor Day 2023, where they unveiled the next-gen vehicle platform, that's a new product. In addition, just let me ask a question here. If your brain works, you probably will be able to answer this pretty easily. Does a company announcing future products that aren't available yet help them to sell products they're producing today? Especially if said products in the future will be much more affordable and just as good. Again, I mean, if your brain works, it's pretty obvious that's not going to help sell your products today. In fact, it's probably going to do the opposite, because some consumers go, hang on, do I really need a 3 or Y? Why don't I just wait for this next one that's even cheaper and just as good? So that doesn't check out. And as for Mark's point about Tesla advertising, an investor during Tesla's annual meeting asked Elon, can you guys try advertising? And Elon impulsively says, oh, okay, yeah, we'll try it, because he believes in soliciting feedback from investors. Does this sound like a company that's desperate to sell production that has issues with demand? For Mark's point to be reasonable and make any sense, Tesla themselves would have needed to, without being asked, can you please advertise from a shareholder? And then Elon going, oh yeah, I guess we can try a little advertising. Tesla would need to have, during the meeting, said, and by the way, we have decided of our own volition, we're going to start advertising now because we need to. It's kind of important. I think Mark's inventing some reasons here that don't actually exist. Tesla doesn't need to advertise, and I personally wish they wouldn't. It's a waste of fucking brain power. Just lower your prices, drive your costs down. Who cares? FSD, robo-taxis, this thing's going to be a blip on the radar. I don't really care about temporary short-term margins. Plus, if investors are panicky, the stock might stay low. I'm still buying, so the cheaper the better. If Tesla during their annual meeting had said, we're very concerned, our sales are down, we're going to start advertising. In fact, we're so desperate to sell vehicles, we're going to include a free blowjob with every Tesla purchase for the next 5 months, Mark might have had a point. But this didn't occur, and Mark doesn't have a point. The dude's grasping at straws. Now, to be fair, obviously, we are seeing an economic slowdown. The automotive industry is extremely cyclical. During a recession, auto sales fall through the floor. I'm not pretending that this isn't occurring, but Tesla has a huge lever of pricing they can pull. They already have industry-leading margins. They can reduce prices and still sell through production and still make more money selling vehicles than any company on the planet, which was their plan, and I think it's a pretty good plan if you ask me. With that being said, we must look at the broader automotive industry. If there is a slowdown in automotive sales, and if it's true that consumers are switching preferences from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles, and if it's true that EVs are now at price parity versus internal combustion engine vehicles, and spoiler alert, they are, we saw earlier in this clip, Tesla's Model Y now is about the same price as the average new vehicle sold in the US, although Tesla's competition can't compete on price, so Tesla's now at price parity, everyone else isn't. If this is all true, the question I would ask is, how will Tesla's so-called competition fare over the next 24, 36 months relative to Tesla? It's worth thinking about.
Gordon, I got to say, I know that market share has fallen, but my earlier point was this, 60%. When your competition, let's see, is VW, GM, Ford, Toyota, Nissan, and Tesla still has 60% market share. I don't know about where you are or where you might live.
Well, I don't know exactly where Gordon lives, but I can confirm it's definitely on another planet.
Around here, it's like if I see EVs, it's Tesla, 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 maybe a VW ID4, Tesla, 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 maybe a Rivian, and an occasional Bolt.
Exactly. More proof that the competition is coming. Oh, wait, that doesn't make sense, does it? Basically, every electric vehicle you see on roads today is still a Tesla. Seems like the competition has yet to come. But don't worry, because according to Mark and every other expert, it is coming. I swear it's coming. Just not quite yet, but soon. This is the year they're finally coming. The competition is actually finally coming this year, I promise. It's kind of like FSD finally being solved. Eventually, it'll happen, right?
Right. So what Mark is referring to, he's referring to U.S. market share. The market share in the U.S. has fallen from roughly 75% to roughly 52% first 2 months of this year. However,
can you feel that? A cherry is about to be picked.
In China, right, the biggest and most profitable EV market in the world, their market shares went from 40% to 12%. In Europe, right, where their market share used to be 50%, they're now sitting on roughly 13% market share.
I wonder if this has anything to do with math, like more companies start producing and selling electric vehicles in a market. By default, the company that essentially had 100% market share to begin with, because they're basically the only company making electric vehicles, automatically has a smaller share of the pie, even though the pie itself is growing. I'm pretty sure we covered this before. This guy really needs to come up with some new material.
Those are two key markets where they're getting hammered. Think about this, guys, right? In the most recent week, Tesla sold 9,990 cars in China. BYD sold 47,000 cars over the same time frame.
In a shocking turn of events, more cherries have been picked. In case you don't know, at Tesla's Shanghai Gigafactory, they produce vehicles in China to be sold in China and outside of China. It's their main export hub. For those that don't know, I live in Australia. The Tesla vehicles in Australia weren't produced in Australia. Where were they produced? Shanghai. Throughout portions of the quarter, Tesla will put vehicles produced in Shanghai on boats and ship them all over the world to sell in markets outside of China. People who pay attention to the sales figures in and outside of China will notice there's huge variation within every single quarter. Again, the reason is quite evident if you know that Tesla is exporting vehicles from Shanghai and selling them locally in China. There'll be some weeks, there'll be some months where most of the vehicles produced in Shanghai are sold outside of China, and there'll be some weeks and months where most of the vehicles produced in China are sold in China. This is very convenient for somebody like Gordon to specifically pick out a certain week, a certain month, a certain time frame. Oh, look, they didn't sell many vehicles in China this XY time frame. But BYD, who spoiler alert, just about every vehicle BYD produces and sells, they do so in China. They're a home player. Here's the thing that matters, as I said earlier. How many electric vehicles are being sold by these companies on Earth over any given time frame? That's what matters. Gordon has mastered the art of painting false narratives, being misleading and deceiving, usually without straight up lying. He can easily fool people who suffer from SBS, but I think they're the only people he is able to fool.
But have you seen them, Gordon? Gordon, have you seen them? Have you seen them? We could pick them up. We wouldn't even need to drive anywhere. I'm going to lift up the BYD and I'm going to park it myself. I mean, there was an article last night I was reading, Mark, about some of these coming Chinese imports. And guess what? In the 1970s, my parents, true story, owned the number 3 Toyota Celica ever sold in the United States in 1970. People laughed at Toyota back then. Guess what? Hyundai and Kia came in. People laughed at them. That'll never work. Now you got these Chinese EVs about ready to come in. right? The $11,000, $15,000. They're about the size of, my son's little electric car in the yard. But are they going to win? Is China going to ultimately win our EV market when it's supposed to be the great jobs generator and create millions of jobs all over the country?
The answer is the future of the vehicle market globally is Tesla number 1. Number 2 through 10, maybe 1 or 2 exceptions in there, will be Chinese vehicle producers producing nothing but electric vehicles. The ICE industry will be dead. Legacy automotive companies will be dead. Few may somehow miraculously survive. But the key words there are may, few, and miraculously. Despite the fact that most Chinese electric vehicle producers at this point aren't making money, they're years, literally years, half a decade or more ahead of most US legacy automotive companies when it comes to producing electric vehicles. Especially at the low end of the market, affordable, decent, but not great, Chinese EV makers are going to clean up. There's not going to be much room for companies like Government Motors. And it's not just in the US, by the way. Toyota's done. Toast. Although they did it to themselves. VW are going to struggle as well, even though their hand was forced after the Dieselgate scandal to move in an electric vehicle direction. Not because they thought it made business sense, but to say, sorry, of course I could be wrong. It is possible in 10 years' time that Toyota will still be in business and still be the world's largest automotive manufacturer, and that a combination of Tesla and Chinese automotive manufacturers haven't eaten Toyota's lunch and forced them into bankruptcy. But when that doesn't happen, I'll be here to remind you that when I said that it is possible, I actually meant it's not possible and it won't happen and you can fucking count on it. Wait, I'm not supposed to say that so directly, am I? Oops, I forgot.
Well, listen, I do want to get back to Gordon's point around, their market share fall in places like Europe and China. And that is absolutely true. But you also have to understand the pie is a lot bigger there.
The guy makes a good point. China in particular, but also Europe, are much more mature markets when it comes to electric vehicles. There are more companies producing electric vehicles and selling electric vehicles in those markets than there are in the US. The pie is bigger, and there are many more companies taking a very, very small slice of said pie. The US is lagging years behind Europe and much further behind China. But we can look to examples like China and Europe to what the future of the EV market will look like globally. Lots of players until most of them go bankrupt, then very few winners.
For the EV market. And that's why I think the issue around Tesla is not so much the capacity that they have right now. Yes, they have their issues. You saw that in their first quarter earnings with profits and margins down. But it's really around their aspirations and the capacity they're going to be putting in place over the next number of years. I mean, those are very aggressive. And then when you put that in the scheme of what you just mentioned, Brian, the EVs that are coming onto the market in China right now and starting to be exported to Europe just about now, they are very, very competitive.
Once again, Mark makes a great point. He's right. Companies like Toyota, Honda, just pick your legacy automotive manufacturer who today sell 1 million to 10 million vehicles per year. There's no hope they catch up to Tesla. So there's no point even considering Tesla as their competition. But they should be shitting themselves thinking about the competition, the legitimate competition, compelling, affordable vehicles, well-built, electric vehicles coming out of China. That being said, most Chinese EV makers will also go belly up this decade. But those that survive are going to be eating the lunch of today's legacy automotive companies. It's not going to be pretty.
The one advantage that Tesla has versus the other established OEMs is when you're competing at the coalface against those Chinese competitors in their home market, you learn to get very, very competitive. And that's what the established automakers missed when they pulled out of Japan 40 years ago. So that's part of what you're seeing in terms of Tesla working so much on efficiency right now. And will they be successful? That's the big question.
There is an EV in China. It's called the Mini. It's like the Hong Kong Mini. It sells for $5,000 US. It's tiny. I wouldn't sit in it. But people are buying it because it is tiny and it's cheap.
Yes, I think the name he was searching for there was the Hongguang Wuling Mini EV Death Machine on wheels. Great little vehicles, as long as you don't run into anything. If you do, rest in peace. But great little city car, tiny range, no safety features, extremely cheap. I don't think these will have a huge market outside of very, very big cities. However, there will be a lot of extremely small micro cars in this market segment that Tesla won't touch due to safety reasons. They won't make unsafe vehicles, and because physics, you can't make a vehicle that small that is safe, period. At least not until autonomy is widely solved and there are no human drivers on roads anymore. And this thing, in some months, sells many tens of thousands of units. But I think it's the larger Chinese electric vehicles that most companies should be a little bit more concerned about. Tesla will be sleeping well at night, but I don't think some of the world's largest legacy ice companies are going to be sleeping well at all if they've got half a brain between their ears and they realize what's happening in the Chinese automotive market. In short, stay tuned for the Chinese EV invasion. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to athleticgreens.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. Certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point and something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy. Wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon. And don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.